DOC number 152277. You're a fourth class offender. Parole eligibility date 8/19/2014. Not eligible for good time. Full term date is life. Manslaughter, you were revoked on armed robbery, aggravated escape. Does that sound correct?
Found guilty on attempt simple escape.
Attempt aggravate. You got in here. Attempt ag escape. Habitual offender add penalty. Armed robbery, habitual offender, manslaughter. That's not. We'll. I don't think for our purposes of hearing that's going to be fact, but we'll make sure that's correct if that's not correct in the thing. All right. All right. Would you answer Ms. Pearl Wise, please?
Good afternoon, sir.
How you doing, ma'am?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm okay.
Good, good. Call out for the record how long you've been incarcerated.
21 years.
21 years.
And
go ahead.
21 years and 4 months.
And 4 months. And you just had a birthday, November 24th.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, well, happy belated birthday to you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Do you remember the age when you first got arrested for anything?
As a juvenile? I think 13, if I'm not mistaken.
Close enough. Well, my math said 12.
Okay.
Yeah, according to the, I think it was I want to say 1984 was your first arrest. Well, your first contact with the criminal justice system. I put it like that.
Yes, ma'am.
And over these 21 years, you've had 98 write-ups.
Yes,
and your last write-up was for fighting in 2018. Have you gotten tired yet, sir? Are you tired?
Yes, ma'am. I'm extremely tired, ma'am.
You're tired. Okay. And that's what I was thinking. Since 2018, you're starting to turn the corner.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm glad to see that. However, are you aware of the detainer that's been placed against you?
Yes, ma'am.
So you got a lot more things to be concerned about than us, huh?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And now with that situation being the way it is, that's not gonna bear too well today because of that. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. That's all I had, Chairman.
All right.
All right, Mr. Roche.
Good afternoon, Mr. BAGNERIS. How are you?
I'm all right, sir.
Good. You started at 12 years old. You have an extensive juvenile record, probably 10 or 12 arrests, and then you're a fourth felony offender as an adult.
Yes, sir.
And you have 98 disciplinary write-ups since you've been incarcerated.
Yes, sir.
4 of those were in 2018.
Yes, sir.
When do you plan to turn it around?
Well, it's exactly when that incident occurred, I had enough time to really get myself together because I was,
What
really
incident was that?
When an incident occurred?
No. My thing is you're still getting write-ups in 2018. When do you plan to turn it around?
I don't want to.
He's asking when you decide to turn your behavior around.
Yeah, what caused you to want to turn your behavior around?
Oh, just with age sir. As I got older, I realized, it's not.
I think you misunderstood my question. You are continuously getting in trouble.
Yes,
You've
sir.
had 4 disciplinary write-ups in 2018. I don't think you've turned it around yet. When do you plan to turn it around?
Right now, I mean, I'm turning it around, sir. I'm turning it around.
Okay, tell me how.
I mean, you have my dictionary, you have my records. I can't sit here and say that I'm a saint, but of course I made a lot of mistakes in life and I regret every bit of it. Every bit of it. I mean, it's not something proud for me to say, and I regret everything. with the victims and everybody. And as time went on, I just, I regret everything.
Okay. Now, you questioned Mr. Kelsey on your crime. I'm gonna read it directly from your rap sheet, your
Yes,
official
sir.
rap sheet. On July 11th, 2001, you pled guilty to an habitual offense, attempted aggravated escape, and you were sentenced to 20 years at DOC without benefit of probation, parole, or suspension and sentence. There's no way in the world that you would have been sentenced to 20 years for a simple escape. You pled to attempted aggravated escape. That's in the record.
Yes, sir.
I'm finished with
I want-
my interview. I'm finished with the interview, Mr. Kelsey.
Can I say one thing in response to that, sir, if you don't mind?
I'm looking at the official record, Mr. BAGNERIS.
I went to trial. I went to trial, sir. I went
Okay,
to trial and got found guilty on attempt simple escape.
okay. Then this record is wrong.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Then you need to get your classification officer and get the record corrected, because it's on your record as you pled guilty to attempted aggravated escape and was sentenced 20 years. Okay,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman?
All right, thank you. Now we'll hear from Mr. Ryan, Nicholas Ryan.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Mr. Ryan. Go ahead and make your statement. Push the mute off. Take the mute button off.
There we go.
All right, go ahead.
Hello?
Go ahead.
Okay, yes. Good morning. My name is Nicholas Joseph Ryan, youngest son of Edward Joseph Ryan, who was murdered in his home on August 15, 1990 by Terry BAGNERIS. We will never know what my dad felt as he died by the hand of a gun owned by Terry BAGNERIS with a bullet hole in his head in his home. I remembered when I was a boy, about 6 years old in 1955, my dad went to Baton Rouge as a witness to testify before the Senate about labor laws involving local 60s plumbing union. He put his livelihood on the line for telling the truth. He said it was the right thing to do. I didn't know much about what was happening, but he was on TV, and it was a very important thing he was doing. He taught our family about right and wrong. You did not break the law, or you would have to pay for your crimes. No one is above the law. When Terry BAGNERIS broke into my dad's home and murdered him, it was no accident. This cowardly act was thought out and planned before he entered the house. He planned to kill my dad and did it purposely. Terry BAGNERIS is not above the law. I will hope you never have to feel the pain of losing a member of your family in a way that my family has. There is nothing to ease that pain but our faith in the justice system. At my dad's wake, there were over 250 friends and relatives who attended. They all offered their condolences to me and my family. They told me what a wonderful person my dad was and could not believe that this had happened to him. They spoke of all the stories over the years that he had told them. He talked about his time in the Navy as a chief petty officer during World War II and so many other clubs and organizations in which he was involved. My dad was an Irishman, and he loved telling stories. And when he was taken away from us, our children and grandchildren, by the reckless, selfish act of Terry BAGNERIS, his stories were silenced forever. Terry BAGNERIS was caught and brought to justice. He received a life sentence for his crimes. There is no way for him to change what he did by saying he's sorry. He can take his case before God and let the Almighty decide. But for now, he needs to finish his sentence. My dad would have wanted him to complete his sentence. He believed in law and order. He always paid his debts and expected the same of others. He loved life. Thank you for giving me this time to speak for my dad.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Now we'll hear from Mr. Edward. Catherine. Go ahead.
Parole Board members, my name is Edward Patrick Ryan, son of Edward J. Ryan. He was my mentor, priest, superintendent, and best friend. A New Orleans native, a chief in the Seabees during World War II, a plumber by trade, a caregiver for my mother for 24/7 for 7 years during her cancer ordeal. How evil is Terry BAGNERIS? He put the pistol in my 82-year-old father's mouth and blew his brains out to send a message. Did BAGNERIS confess who his other 4 accomplices were in this crime, or who put the contract on my father for this murder? I was told by Camille Boris, First Assistant District Attorney, she was going for a first-degree murder conviction with the death penalty. She was so sure of a conviction of murder 1, the DA dropped the armed robbery charge against BAGNERIS he committed 2 days before he executed my idol. The week before the trial, I was informed that she couldn't get a murder 1, that I have to settle for a manslaughter plea bargain charge. After getting out on parole, he carjacked his parole officer's godson. At the trial, his parole officer told me that Terry BAGNERIS was evil, not able to be rehabilitated. That's a direct quote by his parole officer. After his conviction, he attempted to murder the bailiff in the hall and escape. Terry BAGNERIS is a serial armed robber and a murderer. He will kill and rob again if set free. He should not be let out of prison to ruin other families' lives. His murder of my father caused my stepmother's death. She went into a state of depression, sat in a rocker and mumbled all day, "Oh my Eddie, over and over. I am changed by this. I'll never be the same, angry and despair. My wife is afraid he will kill us if he gets out, or some of his gang on the outside will." Thank you.
Who's that?
All right, thank you. All right, we'll hear from Ms. Krieger now.
Good afternoon, Adele Krieger with the Orleans Parish District Attorney's Office. Mr. BAGNERIS is a 4th-class felony offender with an extensive criminal history dating back to 1984 when he was 12 as a juvenile. As a juvenile, he was convicted for simple battery, simple robbery, aggravated assault, illegal carrying of a knife, and criminal trespass, among others. As an adult, he's got convictions for possession of cocaine, illegal possession of stolen weapons, manslaughter, armed robbery, felon with a firearm, and attempted aggravated escape. He's had 2 previous periods of supervision, which were terminated unsatisfactorily due to the fact that he was charged with one of the manslaughter charge in the instant case. He's a violent repeat offender. My office opposes any release for Mr. BAGNERIS. We have extensive victim opposition, as noted by the Ryan family, and then also by Mr. Brandon Allen, who is not here with us today. He was the victim in the carjacking case out of Orleans Parish. He has spent 21 years in prison. 19 of them, he was exhibiting the same kind of behavior that earned him those 98 write-ups. And 2 years have been spent right-up free. So I don't think that balances out in his favor. For those reasons, we are going to be opposing his release today. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Mr. BAGNERIS, would you like to make a statement on your behalf?
With that, sir, I mean, I would like to say that I apologize and I regret everything that throughout my life, victim, family.
All right. You got it, Terry? All right.
Yes. My name is Catherine Ryan. I'm also signed up to speak.
Oh, I'm sorry. They had two
I was
speakers
passed-
down. Okay.
I was passed over. May I speak?
Yes, ma'am, you can.
Thank you. I so appreciate that. Catherine Ryan, granddaughter of Edward Joseph Ryan. August 16th, 1990 was a long-awaited date for my then 18 years of age self. It was the day I was moving back home to Louisiana. It was the day my grandfather, Edward Joseph Ryan, was picking me up at the airport. This day, my life, my family was never be the same, because on August 15th, you, Terry BAGNERIS, took my grandfather from us. Edward Joseph Ryan was a hard, strong, determined, hardworking, dedicated, family first, firm but fun family historian, amazing storyteller grandfather. He taught me the importance of family, of helping others, of honesty, of hard work. I learned how to iron, making a nickel, ironing his handkerchiefs. He always had one in his pocket. He drugged me to visit all the old relatives, but I really liked being with Grandpa, so it was okay. He was a man of modest means. He'd drive an hour to get free spring water and recycled bottles before recycling even existed, and make a day of it visiting family along the way. Time together with Grandpa was purposeful. Cooking, cleaning, washing, shopping were all education moments, made fun with Grandpa. My grandfather, Edward Joseph Ryan, loved his family. He loved his grandchildren. We were perfect in his eyes. While I was preparing to move back home, you took my grandpa away from me. The day before he was to greet me back home, you killed my grandpa. You made a plan to break into my grandfather's home. You went prepared to kill him. You killed my grandfather. Because of you, I didn't get to say hi, Grandpa. Because of you, I didn't get to say goodbye. Because of you, I didn't get to have him see me go to college. Because of you, I didn't get to have him introduce him to my boyfriends and significant other. I lost my family that day, not just my grandfather. My brother turned to substances. My father turned to anger. My mother turned to anxiety and fear. I turned to stubbornness and everything with everything and everyone. I was fearful for my family. I was diagnosed with autoimmune disorder that is directly related to stress. I mourned my grandfather, a healthy, active senior, alive and vibrant one day, killed in an instant. My grandfather didn't get a second and third chance. You have had multiple chances, but you repeatedly choose to return to a life of crime and imprisonment. What have you done to repay this earth for killing my grandfather? What have you done to try to honor my grandfather? What have you done to make this world a better place? My grandfather's spirit is here with us. It shows in my family surviving the murder of a great man. It shows in how we are still together. It took me many years, but I finally gave my grandpa the attention and not let you, Terry BAGNERIS, occupy any of my heart and head. I still visit my grandfather, but it's at a cemetery. I don't think with all the chances you've had that you are capable of living an honorable life. I want you in prison. I want you in prison for your natural life. You took my grandfather's life. I don't trust you on my streets. I don't trust you in my community. I don't trust you won't threaten my family for speaking against you.
Thank you. All right, Terry, would you like to make a statement at the end here, Terry?
Just that I regret and apologize, even though it won't work. Sorry.
All right. Panel prepared to vote?
Yes.
Ms. Pearlwise?
Mr. Terry, apologizing does work. It really does work. You can say whatever you're led to say to the victims. And I hope that hearing about your victim will have an impact on you, as it does me. Just the life he lived and you know what's been said about how you can honor his life. But today, sir, my vote is to deny your request for parole because of the you have a fair institutional record. You have strong victim opposition. You have law enforcement opposition. Your criminal history has already been outlined. Your overall disciplinary record. So that is my vote, sir.
All right, Mr. Roche?
Mr. BAGNERIS, You have been digging the hole you're in since you were 12 years old. You're not going to dig yourself out in a year or 2 or 3. You have to begin to turn it around and show that you can be a productive member of society. And the only way you're going to do that is to have 3, 5, 6, 7 years of good programming, good disciplinary record, organizational participation. It's time for you to get off your rump and start working, or you find yourself a 65-year-old man at Angola State Prison.
Yes, sir.
I intend to motivate you. So maybe one day, a panel of 3 persons can actually see that you want some clemency. My vote is the same as Ms. Wise.
But you have 2 votes to deny. I'm also going to vote to deny your parole for the law enforcement opposition, victim opposition. Still need to continue to work on programs, work on yourself. 3 votes to deny. Today your parole's been denied.
Yes, sir. All right, man. All right.
You know what I think is the biggest travesty in this entire case that we just saw? I think it's and this is my opinion, the corruption, the Louisiana corruption in the 1990s that must have been so unbelievable that a man who would go inside on a clear assassination attempt because he had gotten up and testified. Men hired him. He goes inside. He puts the gun in a true American hero's mouth and he pulls the trigger. And then he's out less than 10 years later. The DA says, we're going to even drop his armed robbery charge that he did the week before because we're going to get him on first degree. We're going to put him in the chair. And then 2 weeks later, they say, we can't do it anymore. We're going to have to get him on a manslaughter deal. I wonder why that happened. I wonder what pressures were happening on the outside that had to silence, that had to make sure that this person only spent less than a decade in prison for what he did. And like they said, who were his other 4 accomplices? How is all of that just swept under the rug? It's sickening. And I don't have any documentation to share on that. I was confused with this hearing because, Richard put in the spreadsheet, and I have the carjacking that they spoke about. We have the escape that they spoke about, which we'll go over. But there was nothing about the main and most tragic part of this story, of this man being hired by someone to silence what really sounded like to me, reminds me of my grandfather, 93 today, Korean vet, 3rd generation butcher, who was still wearing the same underwear from 30 years ago. To imagine that a man would come into his home to end his life with a pistol in his mouth and then to be let off. And therefore not even to be a single record that we can find on the internet that talks about it. Yeah, that's Louisiana for you, huh? They gave him a slap on the wrist sentence, and what does he do? The moment he gets out, it's not clear to me when he got out, but he was sentenced in 1990, and then he has his first carjacking in 1999. So at the very least, he served at most 9 years. I think what's the carjacking is kind of non-eventful. He won. He used a gun. He scared the man, got him out of the car, stole the car. They found it the next day without tires and the cassette player, and then the man was able to pick him out of a lineup, and he was then arrested for that. And then that's when the escape charge comes in. So he appeals a conviction for attempted simple escape, which he's right that he did go to court and the jury found him guilty of attempted simple escape. But let's see if you think that it was attempted simple escape or aggravated escape. On January 26, 2001, the state charged him with attempted aggravated escape. On February 2001, a hearing was held on the defendant's motion to suppress his confession, which the trial denied. On March 18, 2001, a jury found the defendant guilty of a lesser charge of attempted simple escape. So is the jury just like, let's see. Then, they said, well, he's an habitual offender. So the defendant was sentenced to 20 years without benefits of parole, and then the life sentence for the habitual offender. And in this case, I agree, the habitual offender bill is quite a wonderful passive legislation because this man should never be out. And you might say, oh, I'm being too tough or I'm being too that. We have seen so many hearings. We have seen people that have seemed to turn their life around in prison. And watching a hearing like this can, I think, help appreciate, helps me appreciate the difference between someone who's just doing time and someone who is serving time, right? Who actually puts in an effort, who makes a difference. This person has done nothing in prison. He's had 98 write-ups, which is a lot. And not only that, but I have like 5 or 6 filings. He's been suing the DOC while he's been in there. He's just been a headache to the system. His one lawsuit he has back pain and they're not treating him correctly. And I'm sure that, his treatment is terrible, but we don't see a lot of these inmates who spend their time suing the DOC and not contributing and are just getting write-ups. He really has been just a constant drag on society. Although I do have to give him credit, he did seem more remorseful than many that we have seen, and it did seem authentic, or seem more authentic than many we've seen. Now, okay, so let's go through the statements of facts of this escape. At approximately 7 p.m. on August 18, 1999, police officers received, oh no, this is the carjacking, sorry, I was looking at the wrong one. Statement of case, okay, so statement of facts. 4 witnesses testified that the defendant's one-day jury trial, Deputy Joseph with the Orleans Parish Criminal Sheriff's Office testified that on October 30th, 2000, he was escorting 6 handcuffed and shackled inmates down a hallway at the Orleans Parish Criminal Court, back to Parish Prison. As he reached the bottom of the stairwell and was attempting to unlock the door leading the adjoining prison facility, a large person jumped him from behind and choked him. How terrifying is that? The officer could not see who was choking him during the struggle, but before he lost consciousness, he heard an inmate exclaim, "Terry, don't do it. It's not worth it. Terry, let him go. Let him go." Defense counsel objected to the statement as hearsay. But the trial court found the statement to be an excited utterance, and the state noted that the declarant would be testifying. It's interesting that an excited utterance is different than hearsay. That's interesting. The officer testified that he sustained cuts to his neck and over his eye as a result of the attack. Also, if he would be testifying, I can see that as not being hearsay. He's a witness. Carlos, an Orleans Parish prison inmate being escorted back to the parish prison by Deputy Cummings, testified that Terry was the person who attacked the officer and that during the incident he pleaded with the defendant to stop what he was doing. Corporal Craig, also with the Orleans Parish Criminal Sheriff's Office, testified that he observed the defendant walking down the hallway in the courthouse. The defendant was not wearing handcuffs or shackles. Why? God knows. And he had removed his prison shirt so that he was wearing only a white t-shirt. In the officer's opinion, the defendant was trying to conceal the writing on his pants, which identified him as a prisoner. The officer attempted to apprehend the defendant by grabbing his shirt, but the shirt ripped and the defendant evaded capture. The officer then shouted to his colleague for assistance, who sprayed the defendant with pepper spray, and the officer was then able to restrain and handcuff the defendant. Sergeant Tris Lear, also with the Orleans Parish Criminal Sheriff's Office, testified that after reading the defendant his rights and having him sign a rights of arrestee form, the defendant voluntarily stated that he attacked Deputy Cummings and that he had tried to escape. The defendant further stated that he fashioned a handcuff key from an ink pen. Wow, you can do that? From an ink pen and a cartridge and a razor blade, which he used to get out of his restraints. Wow. I mean, that guy is a career. I mean, he's been locked up so much that he mastered the ability to make a handcuff key. Makes you wonder how those handcuffs work, that you can design a key for it like that. As the makeshift key could not be located and the officer feared that the defendant had used a real handcuff key that other inmates could use, the defendant was provided with materials to fashion another handcuff key. The key that the defendant fashioned, however, could not be made to work in the short amount of time while available, and the defendant explained that he had perfected the key he used and had been waiting for the right time to use it to escape. That's like a confession where he's almost like showing off, you know? Which is pretty impressive and terrifying. And the idea that a jury would come back with not aggravated, he choked the man out. What more do you want? Juries can be so strange. I'll tell you that. They really, it has got to be the most frustrating job to work as a trial attorney on either side, because it just seems to me like you have no idea what to expect. Anyways, I am just enraged about this case. And to think that if he hadn't gotten the habitual charge, it would have just been a 20-year sentence. He's only served 21 years, 4 months on this case. And that the family has to show up for parole. And the idea that the family was victimized by him getting out so early after what he had done, and the system failed him, and the system failed Louisiana. And he could have easily taken another life in that armed carjacking, and he could have easily, and he changed the life of that guard, getting choked out, doing your job. This one's upsetting. Thank you, Richard, for providing the information. And with that, I will let you go.